And we're back, ladies and gentlemen, on the Philippe Matthews Show after hours with Dr. Kathy Obear. She's back with us. She is the author of Turn the Tide, Rise Above Toxic, Difficult Situations in the Workplace. Thank you so much, Doc, for being back with me. How are you?
Personally good, but wow, what a week we're having, and just the cumulative impact of so many killings of unearned folks of color, particularly Black men. I just, probably like you, I'm at cumulative impact.
Well, you know, it's unfortunate. It is a reality, and it is the reason why we have you back on the show, because you're an expert in this field. And interestingly enough, one of the perspectives that I think you can bring best than nobody else is how professors, teachers, faculty, when to school on campus. How do they handle this level of race relations and activism of their students? What is your I guess guidance for teachers helping students migrate through this wealth of emotions that we're going through when they see this and they start protesting?
You know, I can appreciate that some faculty or teachers in K-12 classrooms may think it should be leaders that take the key role, and I do think every single campus leader has a responsibility to step up in these critical times. I also think faculty have an incredible opportunity to realize that students are coming to their classrooms mostly at cumulative impact. Now, some are still unaware or not very aware, but so many students of color and white students are paying attention and are impacted. So they're coming in trying to learn math, chemistry, trying to pay attention to history when history is happening all around them. And so how can faculty think about their classroom, which could be their own little, you know, fiefdom, but what's their role in first anticipating how the students are entering? So for instance, after, you know, this week, particularly after these two most recent killings, faculty could just say, I just want to take a moment and acknowledge what's going on. We know that there was a third night of protests, incredibly peaceful last night, mostly peaceful the other nights. People raising concerns and issues, and just want to acknowledge that you may have friends or family that are in Charlotte or other places. And so, A, and then B, they can open up space to say, we have a lot to cover today, but let's take 10 minutes. Do folks have any impact or reactions? Because this isn't the first time. And it could be there are dynamics going on in your life or impacting your family, or things that are happening on campus that you're reminded of because of these national events. And so faculty can just make space to acknowledge and name. I can't tell you how many people of color, particularly over the last year, actually 2 years since Ferguson now almost, have said to me, I come in the next day after another horrific national dynamic or international dynamic, and there's silence, the violence of silence. Nobody says anything. The dean, the director, their chair, their peers, across campus leaders weren't. And so particularly people of color are walking around thinking, you know, I'm feeling all this anger and fear, but nobody else is. What's going on? And no one's holding the space. So even if faculty name and acknowledge it, give a little space. But thirdly, what they can do is look at, what's my content for today? Is there any way to weave in what's going on nationally to what we're talking about? Or if they can't quite see that, can I give the students some homework and say, next time we're going to talk more about the dynamics nationally, but to prepare, I want you each to write a 2-page paper where you talk about your feelings, reactions, do some research, and then come prepared to engage in conversation about how this impacts you in your current state and in your future. I think most faculty, I don't care what the discipline is, could figure out, I'm preparing chemists and researchers. They're going to work in labs where when these national and international events happen, they'll be working with people who are at cumulative impact from them. How can you create a work environment that supports your peers so that it's an inclusive environment so they can get their work done, but also know they're not alone? How can you, if you're going into business, the same kind of dynamic. If you're going into healthcare, counseling, being a teacher, any kind of helping profession, customer service, the people you're serving. So many of them will be impacted by the current event and the cumulative impact. How do you engage? So I hope that makes sense, that faculty can ask their students to project into the future that they're planning career, what they're preparing for, and not only address it in the moment, but then have students think about, wow, when these happen in your career, what can you do? Therefore, what can we do now in this class and on campus to support all people so they can all have student success?
You use a term that I highly respect and can relate to, and that is the silence of violence.
Well,
And you know, when we're talking about this, we're talking about PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. People are impacted in different ways. It manifests in different ways, but sometimes that silence can either trigger the PTSD in others, or it could be the coping mechanism of the person who is silent because they don't know what to say. And I see many times with teachers and people who are educators, and sometimes you know, they're dealing with their own stuff and how, you know, this has impacted their life, their family. And sometimes you don't have the words, you don't know what to say and what to do. And then for Black and brown people, you know, we're impacted with this every single day, even when there's not an event. This is, you know, this is kind of like what we call a spike, but it's like we deal with it every day, you know, full throttle. So we're always on edge. We're always dealing with our own PTSD. Who starts the dialogue? Should the student start the dialogue? Should the faculty member start the dialogue? Should there be a group session? What are some of the tools that we can begin using to deal with our dual post traumatic stress disorder? Because I don't want to make it look like it's just us. You know, yes, we're being victimized, but also you can't be victimized in a society without everybody being impacted.
Could you imagine if deans or chairs of department pulled their faculty together and said, let's talk among ourselves, what's the impact on you, what's happening in your classrooms, how can we support each other, just be human people supporting each other in the short term. But then talk about, so how are people holding space so that students can at least feel acknowledged and know either after class they can talk to you or come to your office hours, if not have space in your classes. And then can you imagine if white faculty or deans or department chairs pull whites together and say, just like you said, sometimes we get stuck in not knowing what to say, afraid we'll say something racist, afraid it's not our place. And so whites working with whites to share ideas and practice tools so that as leaders, they in the classroom or academic advising, they can be useful. And similarly, clearly, pulling folks of color together, folks of multiracial, biracial that are faculty, academic advisors, to talk about the impact on them in a safe, sacred space. To be honest, without whites there, so they can say, here's the impact on me. I'm scared that every day my child leaves to go to school, I don't know if they're gonna come back. My male partner, when they leave, I don't know. When I leave, I don't know. And just to be able to talk about that, because so many of their colleagues may not take the time or be available to have those conversations. But if you plan them, let people know this is part of our workday for that healing, support, community building, and then strategizing what can we do in the classroom. Because I can only imagine if a faculty of color is trying to hold space and then a student, probably white, says, why are we wasting time on this? This has nothing to do with English literature. You're just playing the race card. I mean, that's triple and quadruple. And so to anticipate reactions and then prepare, it's not easy. But I do think if we pull together and are more visible in academic affairs, for instance, it's still the beginning of the semester. This is fall semester in the US and the Northern Hemisphere. And so could the provost still be putting out emails to say, as we are moving forward, my hope is in classrooms you will find space to talk and get support and apply what's happening nationally and internationally to your learnings. And we're going to hold these 3 open forums as an academic affairs division for faculty, staff, and students to come together. Now, the president or the chancellor may hold open forums on campus, and I'm hoping that's happening. The dean, the vice president of student affairs can be doing it. The VP of admissions, finance, could all be doing it. But in academic affairs, do it so that all your academic leaders and faculty have a place to come, have speak outs, because then students will see this isn't just extracurricular. It's not just add-on. Do it on your own time, but we see it as a part of student success, as a part of our academic mission.
This is great. Is there a way, I mean, are there people in place such as yourself because I can see how this could be a very, 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 very necessary job for someone outside or inside to do on a regular basis, because we're at a new time and space in this country. As America is turning more brown, as diversity is becoming more of the norm, from black, white, brown issues to LGBT issues, America is fighting to become what it says it wants to be. What its ideals are. Are there people in place in these schools, in these campuses, in these educational institutions that can do what you do? Do you need someone outside coming in, or do you need someone inside that's dealing with it, or do you need both?
Clearly, you have to have the internal capacity, and many campuses have either what's called a vice president of institutional diversity or something like that. They might have staff there in training. Human resources should, sorry, I get passionate and start getting directive, have people that do organizational training and supervisory training that could be pulled to think to work with faculty. Many campuses, particularly medium and large, have teaching and learning centers that could make this a focal point of what they do. Again, folks that are already doing faculty development. But don't overlook the folks in student affairs, student services. There are faculty, I mean, there's staff there, and actually faculty. So the faculty, if you have a program where people have a master's or doctorate program on college student affairs or higher ed administration, counseling, lots of resources of folks that are doing these kinds of trainings, but mostly for students and student affairs practitioners. Just ask them to come on over to partner with faculty. I wouldn't have them necessarily come in by themselves, but to partner with faculty so that faculty can really hear the message applied to the classroom and the one-on-one meetings they might have with students. A role for outside consultants might be to come in and help people strategize systemically all the different ways we're talking about here and others to create the infrastructure so we're prepared for the next time, as well as how to develop faculty ongoing, new faculty, new TAs, teaching assistants, and current faculty, so they have the capacity to facilitate difficult dialogues in the classroom, to create an inclusive classroom from the beginning, how to infuse issues of equity inclusion, particularly racism, into their curricula, and then for all the academic leaders to learn how to look at their policies, practices, and services to identify inherent, implicit racist dynamics that are unconsciously, maybe unintentionally woven in. So all of that could happen, which would help the organization be prepared and ready. And then they'll say, of course, one more person killed, students are coming back, there's another protest about campus dynamics, faculty come together, what can we be doing? And all these leaders could be talking to the faculty about, you not only have permission, but we expect you to be visible during campus events. So if there are open forums, if there are student protests, if there are faculty organized protests, the student senate and faculty senate talking about these issues, we hope you participate honestly and openly. And this will not be held against you in tenure and promotion. So that's a whole nother conversation. But to be visible and active and mostly supporting each other, because as you know, faculty have incredible privilege on a campus, much more than students, much more than staff. And so when faculty speak up, when they show up, it gives the cover for other people to speak up. And let's say a student says something and they get literally verbally attacked, a faculty member can step up and say, hold on, this is a place It's an open forum, all voices, but we will not do personal attacking. It doesn't happen in the classroom. You can have your voice, talk about what you care about, but don't go after people. Faculty will be heard and they can help facilitate, much less use their own voice.
When we talk about diversity, we also need to honor what many women are going through on campus. You know, we're talking about black-white issues right now and racism, but when we're talking about campus issues and we're talking about diversity, we also can look at the abuse that women are suffering on campus through rape and assault. That has also spiked. Now, I don't know if it's spiked in terms of media. I know it's always been there, but I'm not sure what which one comes first, chicken or the egg. Should that also be part of this conversation and dynamic, or should that be something separate? But or should it be kind of all inclusive in one? Because discrimination is discrimination, and I think all of it needs to be addressed.
I agree.
And not just the black-white issue. We know about that, but when we're talking about campus and we're talking about faculty, I can feel and see how many other people who are dealing with prejudices and discrimination will feel completely left out.
So when I'm talking about faculty and issues of race in the classroom, yes, the two latest folks that were killed were black men, but I always want people recognizing across gender identity and across all racial identities who are marginalized, there have been murders and continue to be killings and unauthorized. So, and to your point, I agree with you totally. And as a strategy, if we only talk about race, then particularly white faculty may resist if they have a marginalized identity. They might resist in general, but if they're like, wait, what about queers, or what about women, as you said, and what about people with disabilities? And so always frame this within, creating inclusive classrooms where everybody of any marginalized identity feels heard and valued. There are no harassment, all voices are engaged, and topics are balanced and discussed in respectful dialogue. And I just read yesterday another campus climate survey. 1 in 4 women said they were sexually abused or raped on that campus. And that reminds me of national statistics, and I still think that's underreported. Mm-hmm. And so in the wake of so many young white men, I remember 3 in this last few months, convicted of rape, not just accused, but convicted of rape, and then given little to no sentence, or right? What, only 2 to 5% of people who are accused of rape even get convicted, I believe? Fact check me, somebody. So to have 3 people convicted, so that would be a continual stimulus and retriggering for women across identities, sexual identities, gender identities, racial identities. And so if you can tell, and I join you, it's all connected. Mm-hmm. And while we have to do it all, in moments like this, to not talk about race in the moment, it's too easy to let race fall off. However, mm-hmm. if faculty have not been talking about sexual assault on campus, what's happening nationally, they need to do that as well. And so many other issues that are getting re-stimulated in this national election season. Mm. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, well,
or not.
Yeah, let's not go. We can go there. We'll do that at another show. But how can people, or how can campus leaders reach out to you, and how can you reach back? How can they connect with you? What's the best way to do that?
Well, I'm glad to support anyone. And again, there are many people in their local community, as well as other people I know. I have a website, drkathyobear.com. You're also able to email me, Kathy@drkathyobear.com. I actually have a webinar coming up this Tuesday on faculty facilitating difficult dialogues by Paperclip. And so it's still not too late to sign up for that. And as always, if people want a PDF of my book, Turn the Tide, they can email me or go to my website. I'll be glad to send them a copy, because I think there are just lots of tools for faculty or people that train faculty to think about, you know, if you're not being proactive, but a student brings something up, or a student makes a negative, inappropriate comment, and then a difficult dialogue happens in this national context, how do faculty respond? And so There are lots of tools in that book that can be used and adjusted and adapted for faculty use in the classroom. Can I add one more thing before we go?
You certainly may.
A final note I was making was faculty can role model that they're open to feedback by saying, the end of this class, I'd like everyone just anonymous, ungraded, just want people to write me a reflection paper of what am I doing as a faculty member to help create an inclusive classroom where people feel valued, supported, and we can talk about controversial, contested, passionate issues respectfully. And is there anything that I could do more to create that classroom or infuse more issues into the curriculum that we're, the content we have to study, but how do I bring things in? I want your feedback. And if there's anything I've done that actually has crossed the line, violated our norms that we created in the beginning of the class session, let me know. Again, it's anonymous. If you don't want to do it because you think I know your handwriting, you can feel free to type it out and slip it on my door. Would love you to tell me in person, but this is a way I just want you to give me feedback so that I can create the best learning environment. And I just remembered one more thing. Is that all right?
Sure, absolutely.
This is a time to really give much more grace to people. When I'm triggered, when people are triggered, I'm more likely to misstep, misspeak, say things in passion that I might not say or with a tone I might not say. So for instance, earlier this week, I put up a Facebook post. I was just moderately triggered and very passionate, put up a post just asking leaders to step up. Well, the last line I wrote was, let me quote it to you. I deplore leaders, I can't find it, but it was something like, I deplore leaders to step up and speak up. So I sent it. About 6 hours later, I was thinking about what I wrote and I was like, deplore? I've never used that word before. I don't even know what it means. So I looked it up and I was like, oh no, that's not what I meant.
Yep, wrong choice of words.
I meant implore, another word I never used, yep. But I looked it up because I don't know if you're like me, especially when I'm in the flow and triggered, stuff just comes to me.
No question about it, sure.
So I went on Facebook and thank goodness I knew how to edit it. But it just reminded me that particularly as a white person, as I interact with folks of color, folks of multiracial, biracial, at cumulative impact, may say and do things differently in a moment than they might in 10 minutes. And so how to have more space and grace, and for whites as well, they're scared or whatever. So have more grace and everybody do some self-care and healing. That's my final hope.
Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you for that, Doc. Have more grace. That is the way to end it. Well, we'll see you guys next time on the Philippe Matthews Show after hours. Thanks, Doc. Stick around with me in the green room as we sign